the Sea podcast. My name is Lisa. I am Saratogaknitting on Instagram and on Ravelry, and I welcome you to my home. I live in Marblehead, Massachusetts, which is just about 20 minutes or so north of Boston, and I live in a little harbor town. And so right out my window here, you can actually see a little bit of the harbor, certainly more from the third floor, from Sofia's floor. But this is a knitting podcast. And today we're going to talk about a few things. I have some finished objects because it's been a while, and I certainly have some works in progress, and then we're going to do our last Meet the Designer giveaway, and then we'll have some chatter and probably some pictures at the end. So let's get started. Well, I do have a few since it's been a little bit of a while since I recorded the last time. I've gone through the Christmas break, and I always have just about 2 weeks off during the Christmas break, so that gives me quite a bit of knitting time. So I have some finished objects to show you today. The first one is what I'm wearing. This sweater is called the Seascape sweater, and it is by Andrea Yetman. And for this, I used all unspun yarn. So I've showed you that before. But this is the Plutalopi from Iceland, and then all of the different colored yarns are from Caroline, who I am a patron of. She and her partner Knut have a spinning mill in Sweden, and I'm a patron of hers on Patreon. And I'll leave a link down below so you can take a look at her yarns. But these are basically all unspun yarns, so they're kind of delicate to work with, but they create a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful texture. It's really great for outside, for not right against the skin for me. So this is perfect. And I actually made this 3/4 length sleeve. I thought that would go really well, just kind of wearing turtlenecks and in the office. It's very, very warm. That was the other thing. I think if I had made it full length sleeves, I probably would have been too warm to wear every day. It would have been more of an outside sweater, but it is really beautiful. It fits perfectly, and I'm just really pleased with it. This is a nice pattern because it would look completely different in a different type of yarn. So if you knit this in a commercial yarn, it would just look very, very different. No better, no worse, but just very, very different. And I really just love the rustic look of this, and I just throw it right on, and I've gotten a lot of compliments on it so far. So this is my first finished object, and I'm really pleased to have that done. You know, I like to try to knit some garments during the year, so this was my first finished piece. I actually probably finished this before the beginning of 2020, but this would have been my last finished garment then for 2019. But super happy with it. My next project was a pair of socks, and you know I always participate in the Oloops Harry Potter knit along from October to December each year, and I have been a moderator for the last 7 years, and so we have projects to do each month. So we have a project in October, a project in November, and a project in December. And then based on your year in school, then you also have a project that you can work on over the 3 full months of the knit along. So it's a lot of fun. One of my projects that I have, I did do 3 projects, but I have 2 of them with me right now. The first one that I did was a pair of socks, which are really beautiful. I haven't even worn them yet. I've just been waiting to show them on the podcast. And these are called the Invisibility Socks, and they're by Salapalooza Knits. And I will put a link again to her down at the bottom and to the pattern. But aren't these beautiful? You can see the beautiful pattern that goes all the way up the leg. These are extra long because one of the challenges on this particular one of the requirements on this particular challenge was that we had to use up all 400 yards of yarn from a skein. So that's what I did. This is, of course, a beautiful Oloops yarn, but I knit them all the way. I knit them toe up, which is great. Again, toe up with a Fish Lips Kiss heel, which is probably different than the actual pattern. And then I just kept knitting until I was finished with half of the yarn. I had weighed the skein, so I already knew where the half point was. And these are just beautiful. I just really like this pattern. It kind of shifts up and down, and it's just really, really beautiful. And I can't wait to wear them. As I said, they're a little longer than I usually wear, but that's going to be perfectly okay to go under some great boots this winter, as it's beginning to get colder now. So that is my second. So that's the Invisibility socks, and I can take them off with a sock blocker now, now that I've shown you. The other Harry Potter knit along project that I have to show you today is, let me see if I don't knock too much, is the Hollows shawl. And this is a shawl by Melody Hoffman. It's been around, it's one of the favorites. It's a lot of people have knit this on Instagram. I mean on Ravelry, and it's really just very beautiful. And again, this is a shawl that would look very different in different weights of yarn, in different colors. I used a skein, actually I used 3 skeins of yarn from O-Loops again, because it's the O-Loops knit along. But so I used 3 skeins of this in fingering weight and in a variegated yarn, but it is just gorgeous. So you can, it's really big. I won't be able to put it all on on camera, but the pattern is really interesting because you use short rows in between, so you can see that that there's parts of this that get smaller here that come together, and then get bigger between the lace parts. And it's really interesting, very interesting to knit. It took a long time because it is most of it is stockinette or garter stitch. So there's quite a bit of, you know, just a lot of back and forth. But it was really great for watching TV and just really nice kind of potato chip knitting once you got into it. It's really, really, really beautiful. I haven't decided if I'm going to keep this. I have someone in mind that might really like this, so I might actually give it away. Another nice detail with this that again takes a lot of time, but it looks beautiful. There's a nice picot edging at the bottom of it. So when you're all done, that's the very last piece that you're having to do. But it's just, it came out really beautifully, and I would really highly recommend this. I really enjoyed knitting it. It was perfect to come home at night and pick this up and get this done. And I also had 3 months to do this, so I was not in any particular rush to get this done. So that was really really nice. Another project that I enjoyed as well at the end of the year was the Shift Cowl by Andrea Mowry. And I used all stash yarn for this. I had gotten some yarn off of the Knit Local Getaway swap table 2 years ago, and I actually hadn't used it yet. And that's all this very colorful yarn here. And it was a DK weight, and so I actually had I had a skein of white DK to go along with it, and the rest of the green that I got last year at the Knit Local. So I really used all stash for this, or deep stash for me. I don't have a big stash, but this would be considered deep stash because some of it is, excuse me, is 2 years old. But it was a fun knit. This is one of those projects where you're not really sure how it's going to come together when you start out knitting it, but you figure it's going to come together at some point. It has really nice I-cord edging on a couple of the edges here. Then you basically end up knitting it flat, and then you seam it together, so it makes a really nice shape, perfect for a cowl. And really, depending upon which way you wear it, the colors look very, very different. So this is fun, and I would imagine this is a pattern that will look very different depending upon different colors of yarn that you use as well. So you could really go to town on this and make a bunch of these, and no one would ever know that it was the same pattern. But it was really a lot of fun. Now it does have a lot of back and forth because there are some slip stitches in this, so just kind of be aware of that, that you don't want to do too much of it and get any carpal tunnel issues with your hands or your elbows. But I really enjoyed this, and it was a lot of fun. And again, once you kind of get into the rhythm of it, you can see where you are and see where you're going, and I just really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to throwing this over my neck this winter as we get into the cold and the snow. The last finished object that I'm going to show you, reach over here and put this on the sock blocker, is a pair of Advent calendar socks. I through the O-Loops, once again, the O-Loops knit along that I participate in, the Harry Potter knit along, we also have a kind of swap package at the end of it. And what we all decided to do this year was to do an advent calendar swap. We all love advent calendars, yarn advent calendars, and you get a beautiful little skein of yarn, but they can be They can be pricey. Not that there's anything wrong with that because they are beautiful, beautiful. The ones that, certainly the ones that I've seen this year, the colors are striking and just gorgeous. But we did a swap, so we just used minis that we already had, or we just made up minis. So we each swapped. I think we could do 10 or 20 gram minis, and my swap partner and I did 20 gram minis. So you put all those together, you make them all up, put them together, and then put in some other goodies as well. So so basically from the first day of December, I opened my first package. And what I decided to do with that is to make a pair of scrappy socks, which was really fun. I had never done that before. So I just used my my regular old formula for making socks, toe up, fish lips, kiss heel. And I just basically chose whichever one I had and just knit as long as that particular little mini I thought I wanted to do. So the first day I had orange, and then the second day was this blue color, and then purple. And it was really a lot of fun to kind of watch these come together. They're kind of Frankenstein-y socks because you just don't really know what the colors are going to be. I mean, you could wait until the end and put them all together and do some color management, but I didn't really want to do that. I just wanted to kind of do them as they came. And so they don't match at all, of course. They look completely different. But again, so much fun. And I do have, I do have yarn left. Again, I probably could make another pair of these from what I had. I think what I did is, now that I'm talking about it, I think what I decided to do was knit about 14 rows for each day. So that kind of gave me enough. It was enough to kind of do in the morning while I had my coffee before going to work. And so then I would wait till the next morning and pick out my color and knit another new 14 rows. And that seemed to work for me. I haven't blocked these, so they look a little crunchy, but I'll get to that. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. I really had a great time with this. And then I have all these extra pieces of minis that I can throw into my Bits and Bobs blanket that I'm also working on. I don't have that with me today, but I'm also working on that. I'll put a link to that at the bottom. You've seen this before, but it is a really great pattern to use up. Minis. You can knit this pattern holding, you knit it holding two strands of yarn. So one can be one color all throughout the particular blanket, or you can mix it up. So I'm just mixing them up. I'm just kind of grabbing a mini as I can in my bag full of minis, and then just letting the color flow and do what it will. It is a modified fisherman's rib. It's not a fisherman's rib, but it's a kind of a modified version of that, but it makes it so soft and squishy. It's a great way to use up minis, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm almost done. Mine is going to be kind of a lap blanket, so I really probably only have a few more inches to go on it before I bind it off, but I'll probably just start another one because they are just really great and fun. But I will have a link to the bottom, and that pattern is again the Bits and Bobs, and that is by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bear, so you should definitely check it out. And I think that is, no, that's it. That's all for finished objects right now. And now let's move on to some works in progress. I have a couple of works in progress here. I'm trying again this year. If you remember, last year I really tried to just work on 3 projects at a time, and that was really, it worked very, very well for me. And I know people have messaged me saying that seems to work well for them as well. So what I'd like to try to keep on that roll for this coming year. I really enjoyed it last year. And one of the things I always want to do is keep a sweater on the needles, because I just enjoy knitting sweaters, and I also enjoy wearing sweaters. I've been really trying, certainly after Christmas break, to just wear a sweater and a turtleneck every day. I'm lucky enough that I have a little bit more of a casual workplace requirement, so we don't have to get super dressed up, which is really nice for me. So I get to wear a lot of my sweaters, which is really just a lot of fun. So I really like to do that. So I want to keep a sweater on the needles, and then at least two other main projects. I may kind of mix that up a little bit because I do like to knit socks, and I will be knitting some more socks this year because I take the bus into work every day, so I have a good 20 minutes to half an hour on the bus where I can knit, and then I end up getting on the T to get actually to where my office is. But so I'm going to try to do that. So I'm going to show you some projects. One is almost done, so I'm actually that's going to be right off my needles Two of them actually are almost done. So, but they're really interesting ones. I feel like I have really interesting projects right now. The first one is, I will show you, is the clapotis. And I have it here. The clapotis is oops, dropped everything on the floor there. The clapotis is an older pattern. I say old. It's probably from, I didn't look it up, I probably should have. It's probably from around 2004 or so. It's by Kate Gilbert, and it was on a Nitty.com pattern. And Nitty.com is a free knitting pattern that comes out quarterly. A knitting magazine that comes out quarterly. They have a spinning portion of it, but they have just really great patterns, and they are free. So I'll put the link down here to Nitty.com, but it's a great resource to look out for. And once again, it comes out once a quarter, so it's really a lot of fun. The clapotis is it's supposed to be kind of a French wrap, and the inspiration is from France, and that most French women will have some type of a neckwear when they go out. And I like to always joke and say that in my head I live in Paris, so why not? But the clapotis was a really interesting pattern, and this is actually the third one that I have made. I made one out of I think it was Lorna's laces. It was some type of a silk. It was beautiful. I have that at work. I still use that. People will still ask me about that. I really need to actually bring it home because it needs a good gleaning. It has pilled a little bit, but it will come right back again. I made another one from some worsted yarn that Sofia and I had dyed up years and years ago. That one unfortunately got thrown in the wash at some point in time, and someone felted, and so I no longer have that one. But it is a pattern that I remember being very excited to knit when it first came out, and trying to find exactly the right yarn. And I have always wanted to go back to it again. It's just really interesting construction, fun construction. So this is a pattern that you are knitting, but then you are dropping stitches. So I'm going to show part of it to you here. So I have not blocked all of this yet, so that's why I wanted to show this to you. I actually just bound it off last night, so it is done, but not all blocked. So here it is here, and it's almost a trapezoid, so it kind of goes in this direction, and as you can see, it will block the edges out, but it is really, really super interesting. So there's a certain portion where you're increasing, and then you're just doing straight rows, and then you're decreasing at the other end. But what happens is that every eighth row I think it is, 8th or 12th row, you actually drop stitches. And so all the way down, you have these rows of dropped stitches. And I cannot tell you how much fun it is to drop those stitches. It's just something that you don't normally want to do when you're knitting a project, but you have to do it in this project, and it is so much fun. This pattern has been around for so long. The original pattern tells you you're just knitting across. You're knitting through the back loop on the one right before the one you're going to drop. Then you knit that one, and then you knit through the back loop again on the other. So it kind of gives it a little bit of strength on either side of that drop stitch. However, some of the hacks on this project have been out there for a long time, and the one that I actually used, and I remembered it when I started, I was like, there's a trick about doing this, and I need to find out what that is. I had to look it back up again. But one of the tricks on this project is that, in fact, you do knit through the back loop, but you purl this stitch and knit through the back loop. So when you're knitting across, you know where you are because you can see this row of purl stitches. It's very clear which column you're going to be dropping because they're purl stitches, and it just makes it a lot easier to go. And again, this is kind of a cool pattern because you have to use the pattern and watch it and count the rows because there's a certain, you do a certain amount before you knit, just knitting straight across. You're not making any increases or decreases, and then you're decreasing again. So you do need to make sure that you're counting that. But the physical knitting of it and actually looking at your knitting is super easy. Really a lot of fun. And then, boy, whenever you get to that row number 8 where you're going to drop those stitches, you're like, oh, I get to do it again. And it is just really cool. The other thing that I wanted to show about this is you can see this here. It looks kind of bunched up. It doesn't look so fancy because you can't see the drop stitches. And I just wanted to show you what the power of blocking is, which is always amazing to me. Now, this is not fancy lace, but you do want this to open up so you can see it. So this half yesterday or the day before, I just threw kind of a quarter of this like in the water and just kind of let it sit, and then took it out and finished it off last night. But here is the part that I put in the water to throw out. So look at the difference in that. Let me put that out there. So now you just hold it up, you can see where all those drop stitches are, and then you can see where I didn't block it as it gets back, gets back into the rolled up part. But what a difference that blocking makes, which is really just a lot of fun. I used Sweet Sparrow Knits, Julie's yarn for this. She sometimes puts together mystery kits or mystery groups of yarn, and I got a mystery group of yarn, which is 3 skeins of DK weight yarn that I didn't know what it was going to look like, but this was it, and so that's why I decided to make the clapotee, because I had enough, and it was just so beautiful, and this is just a beautiful way to use up this yarn. I did not worry about color management or skein management on this. If you're doing a sweater, back and forth, and you have yarn that's like this, that's speckled or variegated, you need to think about that, because you don't want to see any specific line demarcation, which will happen because they're independently dyed skeins of yarn. That is not a negative about that at all. You just need to keep that in mind. But for something like this, doesn't matter whatsoever. So I just wound up the next skein and kept on going. So this was a lot of fun. I'm really happy. I'm glad that I went back to this because I really enjoyed it. And again, it's an older pattern, so I kind of like to pop it back up there. It's something that's super interesting, super fun, and really very, very wearable. You can wear it around your shoulders, wrapped up around your neck, and I really enjoyed it quite a bit. So Clapotee by Kate Gilbert, Knitty.com. Highly recommended. The next project that I will show you, let me get that. Just totally fell on the ground, excuse me. These are called the, this one, oh, yes, I've got string going all over the place here. These are called the Tay Era Fingerless Mitts, and they're by Rachel C. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, and I actually picked up this pattern and the yarn at my local knit shop, Marblehead Knits, which is right around the corner for me, luckily. And we were in there, I forget, maybe in November, and Kate had a sample of these on the table there, and the yarn that went with, and I was like, these are beautiful. She's like, oh, you should try it because they're just super, super simple. So they're just a pair of fingerless mitts. They look tiny, don't they? I haven't woven the ends in yet, so they look tiny, tiny, tiny. And it's this beautiful yarn. I'm not sure if it'll show up, but it is very sparkly. Oh yes, there we go. It is very, very sparkly. These also are probably going to be a gift. I may actually hold them until next Christmas. I was thinking about trying to get them done for Christmas this year, but that didn't work. So I think I might hold these if I don't grab them myself. But the pattern is written in 2 sizes, small and large, and it has this really beautiful detailing of cable beside. Now for this particular cable, I did use a cable needle. You know I'm a big proponent of cabling without a cable needle, and that works most of the time. This one, it wouldn't work because you have to pick up some stitches on either side, either end of the cable needle, so you really can't maneuver it that way. So I did have to use a cable needle, which is fine. I can certainly do that. That's not a problem. And they're just these really beautiful traveling cables that go up the side. As I said, they're fingerless, but the yarn and the needle size that you use is so great that they're very, very stretchy. So it looks like it's not going to fit anybody, but once you put it on, yeah, get those out of the way. There we go. And so that's what it looks like. Super, super beautiful. I think I'm very happy. The yarn is just beautifully soft. Perfectly happy. You can also see. You see here right there on the edge. I do this all the time. This is also another one of those kind of knitting hack things that this starts bottom up, so you cast on and you're going to connect them in the round. And before I do that, so I make sure that I don't twist anything, I usually will go back and forth and do maybe 1, 2, or 3 rows just flat before I try to join in the round. And so I always have this little gap at the bottom, but I'll just put that back together again, sew that together again when I finish these up. But that way you can be guaranteed that not to twist your yarn, because you have enough of it on your needles so that it's going to be lay flat enough you can actually see where you're going to be joining them together, and no one will be the wiser. Once again, no one will be the wiser. So I always do that if I'm doing this or I'm doing test knitting maybe a sock pattern that's cuffed down. I always do that. But I really highly recommend, again, free pattern on Ravelry. This was great. Really super pretty. You can make them as fancy as you want or not. And I'm really pleased with them. I have them both done. I'm just finishing the thumb on the second one. So again, these are almost done. I finished that thumb and then I'll just weave in the ends, and I will probably put this in my Christmas basket for next year. So that'll be really nice to have a little Christmas present all done. The third project, this is third, right? Yes. So this will be no longer be part of my projects because I will finish that today. So I will actively be working, and the clapotis is all done. I just have to do that. So I actually have 2 projects right now that will, this next one and then the sweater that I will show you. And so then I get to choose a third one. Now I may just wait. I know that there's a sock pattern probably coming out that I want to work. Mary Lucas, Pearl Kitty Designs, just put out her 2020 Queen of Socks, Mary Queen of Socks pattern club for socks for this year, for 2020. So she just put that out. I actually put a link to it for you here on Ravelry, and I have a copy of that, so I'm looking forward to those. The pattern actually comes out, I think, this week sometime, so I'm thinking maybe the 20th of January or so later this week. And I have some skeins of yarn put aside, so I'll be looking at that, and I may want to be casting that on, and that would be my bust knitting, along with these other 2 pieces that I'm going to do. So I'm going to try, you know, as best I can to keep to that 3, because I really enjoy that. So the next one that I'm working on is a hat, and this is a really beautiful, gorgeous hat pattern. I have kind of been in love with this pattern for, it's got to be for definitely over a year. And it is called the Tuegos pattern by Susan Crawford, and it is from her Shetland Knits book. I'll put a link to it on the bottom again. And she did, over several years, she did all kinds of research in Shetland on original Shetland patterns that were in the Shetland Textile Museum, and she put together this beautiful, gorgeous hardcover book. That it was thick and beautiful, has full information in it. It's just gorgeous. It can be expensive, and so and you couldn't buy the patterns separately. You had to purchase the hardcover book. So I had kind of looked at this from afar and considered it. You know, I was like, maybe one of my Christmas gifts sometime. But then this past year, she actually came out with a digital copy of it, which is phenomenal. It's just so nice of her to do that, because I think there's a lot of work that goes into doing that, to translating a hardcover book into a digital book. And she actually spent the time doing it because there's just so many beautiful patterns in there, and then it just makes it much more accessible to people. So I now have the digital copy, which is fantastic for me because I can download the patterns right into Knit Companion, which I use on my phone and on my iPad to actually to look at the patterns digitally. So that makes such a great. It was really nice of her to do that, and I was happy to purchase that copy. It makes life a lot easier for me as a knitter. I have seen this pattern this specific pattern because Andrea on Fruity Knitting knit this up last year, maybe at the beginning of last year, and her hat is gorgeous. I just love it. It's like a big tam, and it is knit out of Jamieson and Smith. Yes, Jamieson and Smith, and it's just gorgeous. So this is these beautiful Jamieson and Smith yarns. I have lots of skeins of them because it's color work. And I got this from the Woolly Thistle, so this is great. Corinne, just keep on carrying this beautiful yarn for us. And here is the beginning of this pattern. So isn't this beautiful? Now I will admit, right here, I have done this twice, and I will show you. I still have the other one because you never want to, don't want to lose this because maybe I may need this yarn at some point. So now I started this twice. This was one of my projects over Christmas break, so it didn't really matter. I was free, under no pressure. So yes, I started this twice. I seem to do this on patterns. Probably other people do this as well, but I tend to do them twice for some reason. And the reason on this, and I knew that this was a problem, not a problem, but I should have been more aware of it. It is written, the sizing of this is such that I forget how many, it comes in several sizes, but I don't think of myself as having a big head, so I just kind of measured it and kind of went with the smallest size. It looks like, I feel like I had gauge when I tested it out. I had to use a very tiny needle, very tiny. So this is like a size 0 or 1. I mean, they're really small. They're much smaller than I usually use, but the fabric is very thick and dense and beautiful. Now, when I remember watching Andrea on Fruity Knitting, and one of the things that she said about this is that the brim is very, very tight, so make sure that your gauge works and that the circumference of it works for your head. I did not pay attention to that. And I knit this up, and so, you know, you can only get so far before I'm like, I need to try this. And when I tried it, it was just too tight, and it wasn't going to stretch enough with blocking. So it was a good exercise. It was a good exercise for doing this, swatching, etc. So here it is here. This was the beginning of it. So I started it again. And here is my second attempt at doing this. And this one will work. However, you may notice, showing all my dirty laundry here, you may notice that on this one, there's a lovely pop of red in here, there, and at the bottom of it. So, and then you move into the blues. You may notice on this version, there is no red. There is only blue. I did not realize I had gotten halfway through the color work, and I was like, oh, I was supposed to use red and not the blue again. It really makes zero difference. There is no one that's going to come up to me and go, you didn't add the red in there, and I'll have the red in other places later on in the pattern. But I just thought that was funny. I was like, you know, oh my gosh, it's just knitting. But what's really interesting about this pattern is that you start the pattern here, and you knit this part of the color work, the brim, and then you continue knitting on the a large amount that's exactly the same as the brim in stockinette or in garter stitch, and then you attach the two. So here's really what it looked like when I did the knitting. Ooh, get those out of the way. So I started here, knit the pattern, and then continued on knitting the stockinette. I think the pattern actually does have you do the it's designed to have the kind of the reverse stockinette on the inside of the brim. But again, Andrea on Fruity Knitting said she really liked to have the stockinette side, and so that's what she did. And it's an easy fix to do. It's an easy adjustment to make on this particular pattern. So anyway, so I have this large piece here, and so now, there's one row of purl to delineate where you're going to put the brim in, and so now I am almost done. I left it open so I could show you today, but I'm almost done attaching the back to the front. And this will be incredibly warm, and it does fit. I tried it on already, and it does fit. And what will happen from here? So now what will happen is that I'll just continue knitting from this end, which was actually my starting point, because I knit this way and back up again. I've attached the two, and now I'm going to start knitting this way. And now there are increases here, so the tam part now will come out. So there's some increases, so it will be bigger. So it's a nice, warm, tight brim around your ears, and then it will move on to the rest. But it is just so pretty. I'm super excited about it. It's just, I've literally have waited months to knit this, and I'm really excited about this and how this is going to come out. So it's slow. It is color work. You can see my floats here in the back. They're pretty good. Most of the time, I usually try to maintain only about 5 stitches before I need to catch something. Most of this doesn't have more than 5 stitches. There's just a couple of rows that do have maybe 6 in it, so I'm just catching a float behind it. And there's lots of different techniques for doing that. I am a lazy Fair Isle knitter. I kind of, depending upon how I feel, most of the time I use 2 fingers. Sometimes I'll use just my dominant hand and just drop it and pick it up, depending upon how how enthusiastic I feel about doing it. Really doesn't make any difference at all. Any difference in the tension is going to be worked out in the blocking, but yeah. So this is my color work for right now. My sister-in-law, my knitting partner Tracy, actually entered a contest over the Christmas break, and an Instagram contest with Patricia, and she actually won. And it's great because she won from Patricia yarn for a whatever pattern we wanted from Sofia, or Pia, actually. No, Sofia. She changed her name, Sofia Kammeborn. And we chose a Fair Isle hat, another one, because we did Kate Davies' sheephead hat together a few years ago, and that was really fun to have to do that together. And so we've chosen a hat pattern from Sofia Kammeborn, and she has already gifted that to us. And then Patricia is sending us the yarn, so we are all excited about that. So I'll be doing this. So this is going to be a lot of Fair Isle this winter. I probably won't start that until I finish this, but this was going to go, not that Fair Isle is quick, but it will go quicker once I get this particular piece done, when it's all attached, and then I can just move on to doing the rest of the hat. So that'll go pretty quick, but that'll be really exciting. So next time you'll be able to see probably some progress on that. I'm excited to get that yarn and to get started on that. But this is really interesting construction, interesting pattern, beautiful pattern, and I will link to the pattern book down below as well. The last project that I am currently working on, I'll grab that as well here, is the Rio sweater, and that is by Keiko Kuamura. And this is a sweater pattern that has been on my wish list for a long time, and it was gifted to me for my birthday by Melinda, the Yarnder Woman. So thank you, Melinda. I'm really enjoying. Again, this is an interesting construction sweater, which I really like about my knitting projects right now. They're all very, very interesting in construction and using some stitches that are brand new. But here it is. It looks kind of funny. Right now I am using Knit Picks Wool of the Andes for this. In America, Knit Picks is a really great go-to yarn. It is it's not too expensive, so it's not really going to break the bank, so it's really great. It's hardworking. I really like this yarn a lot. I've used it quite a bit over the years. It's very hardworking. The colors are beautiful. It's 100% wool. It's processed, I believe, in Peru, and it's really good. It's just kind of a really great workhorse yarn. So if I'm going for a plain sweater, I oftentimes will get the yarn from Knit Picks. So this, and the colors, as you can see, they're just really pretty, really deep and beautiful green. This sweater, this is the front of it. This is the back that I'm working on right now. This sweater has a construction where you do start the neck, and you do a now what was the cast on for this one? This was, I'll put it down at the bottom. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a new cast on for me. I hadn't done it before, and it was really interesting to do once I tried it. So that was like, whoa, knocked off my bucket list. I have a new cast on that I know how to do, if I could remember what it was called, but I'll put it on the screen. And it is knit here, knit around for the collar area, and then you stop and you knit each of the shoulder tops here. So you do this shoulder top, you come back around, do this shoulder top, and then you work the back. You work some short rows, once again, some short rows, and short rows, as I've said before, there are extra short rows in the back, because usually on a sweater, if you didn't have short rows, the front would tend to pull up. So if you have some extra short rows, that gives a little more room in the front, and it makes it a little bit more comfortable to wear. So short rows are usually a good idea in a sweater. But they also have this really interesting stitch, and again, I don't remember what it's called, so I'm going to put it down here. But super interesting. I have never done this, and you're going to be yelling at, if I can see, you're going to be yelling at me. Yeah, I know what that stitch is. Let's see if it will show up. Yeah, there it is. Really interesting detail, texturally detail. So this goes along each of the sides, and then it also shows up kind of at the top of the back. I don't know if you can see that again. So yeah, so there it is again, all the way across the top of the back. Which is great. And I don't know if it shows up anywhere else because I haven't gotten that far in the pattern yet, but I'm really enjoying this. There's like pieces of it that are super interesting. You have to pay attention. And then like right now, I think I'm just doing 32 rows of knitting back and forth. So again, it's a nice combination of really interesting, intense work and then just some relaxation. So I'm really happy with this. I think this will go pretty quickly, and I will be getting through this, and I'm really excited about this. Thank you again, Melinda. I'm happy to be knitting this finally. Like I said, it's been on my list for a long time, and I'm really looking forward to it. I have to decide. I feel like now that I'm knitting this one, I need to decide on my next one because I definitely want to make another yoke sweater, but I don't know which one yet. So we'll see. Keep an eye peeled, and we'll see which one I choose. So that is it for my works in progress. All right, so my final Meet the Designer for 2019. As you know, I have been each month in 2019, or each time I podcast, I have been highlighting a designer, a new designer, someone new to me, and hopefully to some of you as well. And it really has been my response to the discussions about diversity, about white privilege, about integration, just about all the normal things that we need to talk about as far as being people. And the knitting world and crafting world is no different than the rest of our world. And so we've had some really amazing, difficult conversations on Instagram and on Ravelry this year. But because of that, I really have been exposed to a lot of designers and yarn dyers that I really didn't know before. As I've said, if you look at the first page or what's hot right now on the Ravelry pattern page, you will see, many times you'll see the same designers over and over again because they're prolific. This is what they do for a living, and they make some great designs. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But there's a whole other layer of beautiful or designers who are making some really interesting patterns, yarn dyers who are doing beautiful work. And so I wanted to kind of highlight that for 2019. So my last designer was Chanel Wu. And Chanel has some really brilliant patterns, and I had several entries into it, and the entry number 2 is the one that came up in my random number generator, and entry number 2 is from Grammak J, and she has posted that she would love to knit the Pops and Pins mid-calf socks, and she says, "I have only finished one slipper sock project in the past. This pattern looks like it would be a lot easier to learn than the other ones I have attempted to knit. I've lost some weight, so I've had to recalculate the size I would need. Thanks for the podcast and the opportunity." So then, and that is Karen, and she actually is from Prosser, Washington. So Karen, hopefully by the time you see this, I will already have gifted you that particular pattern from Chanel, and I hope you enjoy it and come back and show us what you knit. So I really have been I've been really happy to do that for 2019. I really appreciate all the positive feedback that I've gotten, and I hope that the designers that I've highlighted in 2019 have given you some new ideas and some new people to follow and some new patterns to try out, and just continue the conversation and continue the support of these designers. All right, so let's move on to some chatter. What has been happening here? It's been a while, so I'm trying to remember what I talked about the last time. I think probably the biggest thing for us is that we're having some renovation done. I think maybe we were kind of at the beginning of that last time around. We had some painting. We had painting done in our living room area. So that was probably in November, and we had to have everything in one section of the living room moved over into the kitchen area. That was done, and then everything was moved back, and then we had some work done in the kitchen, and then we had some work done in our bathroom, the bathroom that Mark and I use here on the second floor. So that has been just a lot of just a lot of stuff going on in the house. And then beyond that, we also have a contractor who is doing over Sophia's bathroom. We knew that we had to do this, so this has been in the plans for a while. We really needed to upgrade the painting. The paint is really beautiful, but now it's just freshened up. It really needed to be freshened up, and it looks beautiful. Sophia's bathroom was very, very outdated. It was put in the late 50s maybe, and it was perfectly fine to live in for a while, but we knew one of the things we were going to do was to fix that bathroom up. So we're in the process of doing that, but that means literally her entire bathroom has been emptied out. So we have toilets out, the whole shower stall thing has been gone. So we've had people up and down and working in that, and we also had the painter do her painting as well while he was here, because that also needed to be freshened up. And the paint looks just gorgeous. Her bathroom probably needs another week, 2 weeks, someplace in that range to be finished, and it's going to be amazing. But it just has been, if you've experienced having renovation done, it's just been a lot, kind of. And then on top of it, doing it while the holidays were happening, it was like we needed to get the living room done so we could put a Christmas tree up. So there's just all this extra added stress onto it. And usually, the 2 weeks between Christmas and New Year's, we try to kind of just relax and just chill out and enjoy it. And we couldn't really do that because we just had all these people in our house, and there were things going on. Questions had to be answered. It was just a lot. But that is life, and we will survive it. And Sophia's area will just be just amazingly gorgeous. I think it's going to turn out really, really nice, and it just needed to be done. There was just no way not to do it. The biggest problem, there were some leaks going on, so that really pushes you to do what you need to do. So that's really been our biggest thing. But as I said, we're coming to the end of that. We probably have to have some work done on a few windows in the spring, but I think for right now we're going to be finished off with this. We had a lovely Christmas. It was just lovely. We did have our tree. We did get a tree, and we did have some really nice times. We just watched a lot of Christmas movies. I was able to do a lot of knitting. I did no spinning. I cannot believe this. My spinning wheel is sitting in the living room. It wasn't in there for a while we were having the painting done, but it's back down there now, but I still haven't picked it up. And I need to, because I have some beautiful, beautiful fiber to spin. I've just been so interested in my knitting, which is fine as well. But I really want to do that, and I just need to have that push to do it. So I'm going to say, next time I podcast, I'm definitely going to have some spinning to show you. So I'm really looking forward to that. School has started again. They're back for spring semester. So now it kind of comes into my busy period, really between now and March, April, May. It's kind of crazy because we're having to do award letters for students, and there's just a lot of transition between one academic year to the next, and there's an overlap for financial aid for those academic years, so that usually is a little bit crazy. What else? Oh, actually, I did for Christmas. Sophia and Mark gave me a selfie stick. So I haven't really used it yet. So I might go out, maybe I'll go out this afternoon and see if I can test it out and take some pictures. I would like to do that. I think that's also one of my goals for 2020 with the podcast, is to kind of get outside and show you some outside video without making you too nauseous on it, because it's really just really beautiful. It's just a beautiful area. I live right across the street from Crocker Park, so I just walk up the hill. You can see the harbor and the boats. Well, there's no boats through there now, but the harbor and during storms, etc. So I'd really like to try to do that more this year. So I'm going to try to do that maybe this afternoon. I think we're supposed to get some snow this afternoon. It's been pretty mild. Last weekend it was it was close to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. It was amazing, which usually does not happen in January. But last night it went down to the teens. So you just never know. It's kind of a roller coaster, and I think we're going to get some snow later on today as well. So it's always, it's good sweater weather. It's good knitting weather. So there's no complaining really about that. It'll be spring very, very soon. So I'm going to try to do that. I think that's probably it. Sophia and I are still planning on our Egypt trip. We have more planning to. I mean, it's all done. We don't have flights yet, and we have to get our passports renewed, but we're still planning on doing that in July, so I still can't believe it, but we're planning on doing that. I watched a series of on the Nile. It was done recently by a historian. You know, she went up the Nile, but she actually stopped at the steamer that we're going to spend 5 days on, the one that Agatha Christie used, went on, and then she used it for the setting for Death on the Nile. So this particular woman didn't travel on the steamer, but she actually went on and they did some filming on there. And I was like, I brought it home. I'm like, Sophia, you have to watch this. We were like, oh my gosh, we're going to be on this. So that was really kind of fun to see. And as I said, I think probably when we get back from Egypt, we'll probably look at, or Sophia will look at, seeing if we can find a kitten again for her. Not right now with all the construction going on, but I think after we get back from Egypt, we'll do that. My in-laws are going to go down to Florida. They're going to Key West this year for 2 months, I think, and Mark's going to go down there for 2 weeks. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make it down there this year. I have gone in the past, but it's just I have a different position at work, so I can't really take the time off when they're down there. But so that will be really nice for him. We joined the local Y over break as well, so we've been trying to really go. I do the I think we're doing the Walk to the Moon this year on the Bakery Bears podcast. So I record in my my steps every day on that, and then I'm also doing a Run the Edge. It's another step tracking or running tracking, walking tracking group, and I'm doing that with a friend of mine, and she and her husband, and there's someone else, another friend of theirs that's in it, and so we do that every day. I record them. Sorry about that. We lost the battery on this phone, but so that's been a really good push for me. We're going to go later this afternoon as well. I really do like to use the rowing machine, the erg. I'd really try to get on that, and usually kind of watch a video on Amazon Prime while I'm doing that. So that's actually really been good. That's certainly another goal for me, is to continue on trying to be healthier and trying to get a good amount of exercise in each week. So that's kind of where we are now. Hopefully I will put in some pictures and maybe some video at the end here. And yeah, so just remember, it's just knitting. Bye.